Welcome to the Struggle Bubble. I'm Chad Cutting.
And I'm Craig Sergi.
On today's show, we have close friend Andrew Ferguson. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Big fan.
We had Andrew on because he shares in the struggle bubble with all of us. Father of three, coaching where he can with his kids' sport, has served as president of a local soccer club, working all the hours, trying to find all the time to be a great father, great husband, great friend, and thought it'd be really interesting to pick his brain a couple years removed from a presidency, as well as having the kids grow up, one in high school and both boys now still in elementary school. Right, Andrew?
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll just open with the story of when we first met. I was, as president of the local Little League, we recruit all of our T-ball coaches, single A, double A, all the divisions. And at the younger ages, it's always interesting just to find dads that have the time and some baseball knowledge. And we show up to our first game, and this opposing dugout is just in immaculate shape. We've got a giant sign with all the kids' pictures on it and nicknames. We've got buckets in front of the dugout lined up where they put their glove, where they put their batting gloves, where they put their helmet, where they put their bat. And I'm like, man, this guy's got it all figured out. Andrew, did you feel like you had it all figured out coaching that T-ball team?
Absolutely not. But I think that shared Midwestern background that we have, I think that showing up and trying hard and just giving everything you can to something is probably the approach I took with coaching, and that can backfire also at times. But if you're going to do it, you might as well try and do it to the best of your ability that you know how to, and that's what I was trying to do. And I need to give a little credit to having a wife who's an educator and worked with those younger ages, and so I definitely tapped Kate for some techniques on how to grab kids' attention and how to keep them all going the same direction. And 1, 2, 3 eyes on me was said a lot of times in that dugout. So it was a team effort. I had some coaching.
I had never heard that 1, 2, 3 eyes on me at all growing up. Is it a Los Gatos thing? Craig, you guys use that in soccer too. Where's that coming from?
I don't know. I know, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have that growing up?
No.
I did not have it growing up. No. Okay. And Blighty? No way.
No, there was some different choice words if you weren't listening. Then
what
1, 2, 3. Shut the fuck up.
No, don't. Guy, that's on me. That's on me. My bad.
Oh, I always used to do fingers on your nose, fingers on your head, fingers on your lips. Kind of just get them to get their brain off kicking dirt and all that kind of shit, and physically moving so they stopped.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard, right? ADHD versus ADHD. It's a nightmare scenario.
Well, I despised it when I heard it from teachers, to be transparent. But then I was like, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. And it was working. So I grabbed it and ran with it.
It makes a lot of sense because the kids are familiar with it and respect it. So, well, again, thanks for coming on. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background as a sports parent and just getting out here to the West Coast?
Sure. I think as a father, you tend to reflect back to your own childhood in sports, and that was the way my mom could keep my energy level sort of maintained. And so I played every sport: basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, soccer, swimming. Like, I was a 2-sport athlete in every season, not because I was necessarily great at anything, but that was the only way my mom could keep me under wraps. And so I think that carried over. I think that, from my career standpoint, I'm at UBS. I'm a managing director. That has been just a gift of 24 years at the same firm. That doesn't happen anymore. It's given me some flexibility to be more, I think, present in my kids' life from a sporting side of it. And if not me, then who? Sometimes it's not from a arrogance to think I'm the greatest coach, but I didn't see a lot of folks stepping up, and I feel like you have a little bit of an obligation to the guys that coached you growing up to give that back to a community, to the best of your ability, and that's how I kind of got started coaching. I did have a neighbor who came to me and said, "Hey, you played soccer in college. Can you coach our daughter's shared soccer team?" And I said, "Oh, okay." And they were 4, I think, at the time, and it was LGU Rec, and that was 13 years ago. So
Did you ever have conflict in that? So you talked 13 years ago with your oldest. Yeah, the flexibility, it feels like it's been a last like kind of 10-year type, more accepting in the office. And then with COVID, it changes everything because we're a little bit remote, a little bit more flexible. Did you see that flexibility early on with your
I
management team, or
did
your were there
because
side eyes?
yeah, our so the team wasn't a team back then. It was me and support staff that I could cobble together to get things to do for me. So that was a whole different approach back then. But it was you ate what you killed, and if I didn't bring in clients or generate revenue, I didn't get paid. So I had to make some tough choices sometimes. But I always had the flexibility.
So you played a little bit of soccer growing up. You walk out of that field that first time. I'm always curious to get, because I've helped coach some rec teams on sports that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
What was that first little bit about? And one, from your daughter's perspective or your son's perspective, either way.
hmm
And then for you of, all right, here it goes. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to do it anyway.
You know, me growing up, my most impactful coaches were both Scottish, and so the first thing I had to realize was, there's guys walking around with that I'm a girl dad, they're proud of it. I was so far from a girl dad, it wasn't even funny. So I had to learn how to coach girls, and I had to learn a different approach. And there was no skill set that I could take from a Scottish guy yelling at me to run, get on the line, keep going. That just didn't transfer. So I had a learning curve there. But what you did, or what I did kind of come across, was that challenging humans, young people, praising them and challenging them, praising them and challenging them. That boys or girls do react to that. I had to find that stride, and keeping it fun, but fun is succeeding at a challenge too. We hear that it's got to be fun. You want to make it fun for them. They're going to stay in the game. It's got to be fun, but being challenged and succeeding as a young person in maybe a way you didn't think you could, I think is a lot more fun than just, you know, screwing around on a field. So I try to keep it structured from a really young age. And again, to my wife's credit as a teacher, you know, her main message was they're more capable than you think they are. So push them to learn it, and you'll be surprised at what they can show up and do. Um, so that was sort of my early. I had the coaching experience in baseball and soccer and the playing experience, um, but knowing how to get a kid to engage with you and react to you and go where you would like them to go is a whole different skill set that, yeah, I don't think you ever master, but you just keep trying to get better at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, first of all, for my first question, did your Scottish coaches think you were Scottish when they saw your name?
Did they
That
draft
would have
me?
been my. Yeah, they're like, wow, we got Alex Ferguson's son. But then that I'm intrigued because obviously I was coached different to the way that I coach today.
hmm
What well, two or three questions really. But first of all, was there any you know anything you learned from the old European style? I just call it that, that transitioned into nowadays, right? And some of it is not straight, like the way that we coach, do laps and all that kind of crap. But there were certain things I think potentially did translate over. And then number two, on top of that, when you started doing it and seeing, how you were coaching, the enjoyment you were having, the kids' enjoyment, etc., how did that then transition to I want to do more and help inside of the club, and that transition for you from a coach into a board member?
Yeah. So I think the board member thing came a little bit later. I think I coached for a good
Years.
8 years or
Yeah.
so. And I think the board member role came towards the end of Josie playing soccer and as my sons were getting into it. Um, and you know, it's nice to feel wanted. And so I think when to your ego to some degree, somebody says, well, "Can you help us?" And then so you take that. Oh well, all right. You think there's value in what I might add? That feels good. And then when you have that sort of, again, that what I call a Midwestern sort of upbringing of a little bit of an obligation to give back and help in a community, then you're like, okay, I can fulfill that and this, and then you get into the chair and you peel the onion back and and things start, you start realizing that you're in more of a situation here maybe than you thought of. I did have board experience. I was on the Camp Campbell board for YMCA for a couple of years. I was a trustee at Marietta College where I played and where I went to school, where my father went. And so I had that experience, and that was a little bit more of a big kid role as a trustee of an institution like that. Um, and I thought a lot of that would transfer. Some of it did, but youth sports has its own set of challenges that are very unique to youth sports. And youth sports is this place of great evolution going on, paradigm shifts, and we're living it. And it's tough because you've got this thing that you love that you grew up doing, and you've got, you know, this desire to want to create outcomes or at least influence outcomes so that your kids have a great space to explore a sport. Um, and then you have all of these factors that you didn't realize could possibly you coached, you played the sport, and then you get onto that board and you realize what you're up against, which is a lot at times.
And I think it's important to set the table for everybody listening because you're part of a little league soccer club. There's governing bodies, whether it's a board or just a group of moms and dads trying to figure things out. But where there is more money now being put into youth sports, there come different motivators at the kid level, the parent level, the coach level, and the administrator, and then the governing body. So to your point, there's a lot of things weighing on you. Let's go into the you felt that tug of, hey, I can help here. There's a
Hmm.
need. I have a familiarity. I have an expertise. I love sports. And there's also a point in time where our kids are only in these organizations, maybe an average of 5 years, depending on when you get in and out, if you stay the entire time at the same organization. Uh, Talk a little bit about the composition of the boards in youth sports and what you saw early on of who takes those roles and how are the tasks kind of divided up.
Yeah. And that's we call that an operating board versus an oversight board or a guidance board. There's probably more professional words for it, but what you're dealing with is volunteers, and they are asked to step in both from a leadership and strategic thinking role, but then also as an operations role to some degree, from schedulers to other things. And I saw that is an unsustainable approach for Los Gatos United, in my opinion. I felt like the board needed to let the leadership team operate the club. And we had to guide them. We had to put guardrails in place. We had to professionalize the board's approach, the bylaws, and a lot of those things. I know those are things that you went through too. And you don't ever stop going through them because in California, they changed the rules on you a lot. And from contractors to employees, we dealt with those types of issues to adding benefits. But my number one overriding goal through my experience with Marietta College was trying to create a board that was not operational, but was about compliance and oversight and guidance and strategic thinking and evolving the club to deal with the sport. And that's hard. And it's hard in a lot of ways. One is even the folks that are compensated, the employees to be there. I mean, we're not walking away from Google and millions of dollars in shares to come do this, right? It's usually about a lifestyle. Um, And the other challenge about Los Gatos United, in my opinion, was that you had operations folks and you had soccer sports folks, um, and trying to get them to mesh with their vision and where the club should go was often, a challenge, and not an insurmountable challenge, and not something that I don't think we made progress on, but an unforeseen challenge when I stepped into the role. And I do think that becoming president was less about being tapped as this next generational leader. It was more about, everybody volunteers take one step forward, and everybody was smart enough to take a step back, and there I stood. So
So with everything that then needs to be done, because there is an operating cadence, and I'll just speak for the Little League, of the league is going to run no matter what. There is no board. If the board is there or not there, there are coaches that are going to coach, there are players that are going to play. And then it's up to us to set a vision and mission of, culture is a big word, but like, who are we? What do you want to be? And how do we enable that for everybody? And on the Little League side, it's a recreational program. Yeah, everybody playing baseball, youngest ages to the oldest ages. Stay with us as long as you can. Comfortable place to play, and some knowledge and learning going on depending on the age and the coaching, and making that all appropriate. I think where you stepped in, that's an even bigger challenge, because you have a recreational division of get as many kids into the program as possible, and also a competitive part of the program of let's win games and develop these
mhm.
players. How did you strike the balance, or how did the board approach the balance between the importance of the rec program and the competitive side?
Yeah, we struggled, and I think any club would with those. But I think a couple other layers of complexity there were you've got Little League America, one governing body. In soccer, we're dealing with ECNL, Girls Academy, different NorCal soccer, right? And who do you align with? Whose bylaws are going to govern you? USA Soccer, like all of those things come into play, and it's not quite as black and white in the sport of soccer as I think it kind of is in Little League. I could be
Well,
wrong,
you,
but
well, you also have people willing to travel to certain teams and certain coaches. You're not locked into a city radius.
it's a great point. I was going to bring it up. You know, the nice thing, I think, very nice thing about Los Gatos United is the zip code, or sorry, Los Gatos Little League is that zip code restriction, right? That essentially your players, your parents are all part of your community. The map for Los Gatos United and where players come from is wild. It's you. We're talking halfway up the peninsula. We've got East Bay, and it was, as Craig said, it was about players traveling to some degree to be with a coach. Um, and you have that in baseball, right? We understand that there's competitive baseball, travel baseball, whatever you want to call it, but it's not intertwined with the rec side of it. And the budget, that's an issue too, because you have volunteer coaches on rec. That's where your profit came from. That's where your revenue came. That rec program was more profitable per player than the competitive side. And that was because the competitive side has the compensated coaches, and that payroll was millions of dollars. And that's a big deal. And I don't think the public understands that really, from a balance sheet, a profit loss, an operating standpoint, how much money flows through that club, and I think a lot of soccer clubs out there.
It's big. I mean, it's out there, so everyone can go,
They can,
go
yeah,
Google it.
they
Yeah, it's a not for profit, so you can go find all that information out. But and you brought up a good point that I've always, chatted about is the operations versus the soccer side of the house. It's a very um it sits on a bit of a knife edge because there is a cross boundary of positions sometimes. There's potential conflict of interest sometimes. And you're also dealing with potentially, the clubs in our area, they're a 5 million a year business. So if it's mismanaged, there is the board members that take on these roles, and you obviously one of them, there is a huge fiduciary responsibility inside of that, right? You've also got to take into contention, areas that you live and how much it costs to live and stay in this, all those things into it. So there's got to be a payroll set, cost of fields, right? We all know that if you're a for profit, it's whatever it is, $250 an hour. If you're a not for profit, it's $90 an hour, or whatever, whatever it pans out to be. There's all these things to take into contention. And I see a lot of clubs in our area. And again, the difference between kind of soccer to baseball and lacrosse probably goes through the same issue, right? With as soccer is you've got to balance that. Okay, if the ops guy is the soccer ops guy, is he also an ops guy for the business or the club? Um, can they do those two roles? Well, probably not, right? There's a conflict of interest there. So there's it's not an easy board to manage because there's a lot of things going on all at the same time. And to your point, you don't know that until you start peeling the layers back. And you're like, oh, I just came because somebody asked me and they were nice and I wanted to help and my kids were in the program. Yeah, that's the initial, it's the bait and switch. Hey, come on
Well,
in, kids.
Craig, hey, Craig, on the just to tie it back of last week or the week before, we talked about the right being a coach and what your ambitions are. You're a young guy that just came out of MLS potentially or college, and you want to continue on that trajectory. You're getting your licenses. You also have to live, where we are in the Bay Area. You have to pay your bills. Is this 100% your job so that you can be available from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. each night, or is it a gig type job where you're working in the afternoon, or sorry, in the mornings, and in the afternoons you take one team, maybe two teams. But in order to pay that living wage and to get the quality coaches, that money needs to come from somewhere. So Andrew, you had just said it. You're using is the wrong word, but the rec program provides a means to be able to bring revenue into the ecosystem that may not stay in the rec side. It'll go and fund the needs of the broader league. But there's also sponsorships. There's like the economics. It's not as simple as it was when we were growing up. Of hey, here's your registration costs, and whatever we can do. The fields are $5 an hour. We'll go ahead and just show up on this Saturday, and everybody plays a game. There's a lot of moving parts to be able to run the league, get the fields, get the insurance, pay the coaches. I say all that, and if there's disagreement, let me know. Is there such a thing as too big of a league? Because with diminishing, you need more coaches that cost more salary. You need more fields that cost more money, and everybody's conflicting for the same lack of green space. Like it seems like an
Yeah,
impossible problem to solve.
it's definitely an ongoing problem that's not going away. I don't think there is any ever a solution. You just have to cobble things together. But you know, to your point, there's this California Civic Center Act, which says if you take a dollar from the state as a public institution, a grade school or whatever, you have to make your fields available. And you've been through that with Little League. Um, and when we talk about the coaches and their wage, like they're taking on too many teams likely to be as effective as you would like them to be. Um, and there's just this huge structural challenge to deliver that product. I think the thing that we got to with Los Gatos United was there should not be just two things. It should not be comp and rec. There should be this middle tier, and Craig and I had talked about this at length. Um, and essentially what you have at some ages is you have five comp teams, right? And so maybe it's limited to two, and three, four, and five should be this elite bracket, or coming up with some sort of, I don't want to call it just marketing, but some sort of structural differentiation. The two sport athlete is who could be really good at soccer someday and is good now, but isn't maybe as good as some of the other kids, which by the way, when it's another topic for a different time, but when we start talking about going through puberty and how athletes develop, right? And making decisions now on team one and two, that thing could be flip-flopped in 3 years, especially with young boys. And so creating an environment that categorizes us as team four or five this early, I think is detrimental. I think creating that different category that acknowledges I'm going to do a couple of different things and see where my athletic skill takes me was important. That was really important to me to accomplish, and I never got there. And that's one thing I would love to have been able to accomplish, but that's life. Sometimes you don't get there. But I think that would have created different outcomes for coaches too, and focus for coaches in the organization.
Well, and we're seeing that now as well. I don't know if you've seen SC Academy, Mark Christie and Savills Academy. They're just doing training and tournaments. That's it. No league play. So that top team, second team, all that stuff kind of goes away.
Hmm.
You're part of their academy crew, so trains, not like rec, but like a group of kids, right? Or doing certain things. And then it's, if you want to go play a tournament, it's this group that go and play Surf Cup, for example, or they go and play summer. Yeah, I've known Mark a long, long time, and Chad and I have chatted about this as well. Like having that less pressure environment of being on a team three and you want to get to team two, but then tryouts come and six kids from another area come into town and you've actually been dropped to team four. Just that emotional damage for the kids when all they've been trying to do is get to that team one
Hmm.
just seems, where, you and I were chatting. Yeah, maybe team one, team two play gold, elite, whatever you want to call it. Three, four, five, they don't go past the bronze bracket in NorCal, for example. It's only local. You only travel 20 miles from your home. And if you want to stay on that team, stay on that team. You don't have to go up if it's not. But the problem is we go back to the financial side of it, right? If
Yep.
I can
That's
make
where.
five comp teams paying this, and you made that point, well, to live in this area, the coach is going to need to coach five teams because and it frustrates me because there's a lot of coaches, obviously I do know that, have a certain grade or a certain level and that puts them into a price bracket, but who made that price bracket? Right. That was just a way to control certain things. And you made a good point about ECNL and GA. You got to make that decision from the club standpoint and then hope that you, number one, have enough kids that can play at that level to keep that franchise moving forwards for you. So now you're using it as a marketing tool to bring these players in. But your initial thought was, I want to bring this into our club because our club deserves to be, some of these teams deserve to compete at the highest level. So you're always, to your point, I don't think there's a perfect scenario, but you're always kind of fighting against these two different revolving issues all the time. It's tough. It's your role that you took is you're always going to piss somebody off, basically, right? It's tough.
I'm sure you missed that part, Andrew. Of
Yeah,
no matter what you do, somebody's mad at you.
yeah, that happened a lot. You gotta get some thick skin, and I think you had to remember or revert back to why did I get involved? I got involved to try and do something good. I was trying to help. Um, I could go to sleep every night knowing that I had the best of intentions. Falling short sometimes is a great lesson in life. Um, I do, I think that the people that remain there and, to a person almost are good humans. Um, and everybody, you know, difference of opinions at times, but everybody has, you know, without getting into detail, I think there were some things that from a that fiduciary responsibility that I think should have been cleared up, and that was one of the reasons I stepped away. Um, and just from a can I live with this, knowing what I know, and that was a challenge for me, and that ultimately impacted the decision of wait a second, and my kids got older, right? Over the 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, I forget how long I served on the board, and it was like two or so as president. My kids got older, and you start to realize that is this trade off, is this sacrifice really worth it? Can I make, because
Yeah.
again, you're trying to help your community because you want a great community for your kids, and you're trying to help your kids and have great outcomes, and or at least the opportunity if they choose to have great outcomes. And then you just kind of say, is this the best use of my time? And
That's
Yeah.
that's
We
where
the
I
talk
got
about
to.
this all the, yeah, go on, Chad. You can say the
I would
same.
say that's the part of the for me doing it 5 years and you go in for the right reasons and you're trying to affect those outcomes, and then there comes a point in time where you're sitting back and figuring out how you're measuring that success. It feels like in our business world it's very easy. You're launching these products, you're making these decisions, there is an ROI, positive or negative, and then you adjust. In youth sports, you are in a constant tug of war of making decisions that's going to impact a large group of people, but not everybody. There is feedback. you both go through it for evaluations of team 1, 2, 3s, comp versus competitive, or comp versus recreational. We have it on the all-star side, trying to make even teams throughout, this season, but I want to be on my buddy's team, but that creates unfairness for the rest of the league. Right? It's that constant juggle. And if you can't measure that success or don't see it outweighing the cost at home, right, Andrew, when we're on the phone for a couple hours each night trying to figure it out or doing some spreadsheet work, and you want to be there for your kids and for your community, but at the same time, the juice isn't worth the squeeze sometimes when you get down to the amount of work it takes to do it the right way.
Well, and this is Chad. This you made a great point. Then this is where I think high school is such a big deal because as we grew up playing, you played for your club team or whatever, right? But you still went out and played with your friends. We talk about this all the time, right? Playing without any coaches, without any fields, jumpers for goalposts. You know, when you hit high school, and this is why I get super pissed at clubs that say, hey, don't play high school. You got to sign a contract with us. Number one, fuck you. I'm 16, 14, 15, whatever. You can't make me sign a contract with your club when I want to go and play high school. Like, that's not okay. And that's where this is where like the experience we had in the winter, the kids had so much joy because they were playing with their friends from all different clubs in one environment. We've totally lost that. Totally lost that. So giving that freedom again, I don't know how we fix it either, right? Again, there's no perfect scenario here, but all coming down to the field. And, there's a few things I've tried in the past, but again, and I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. Clubs try and keep their kids sheltered way too much because that's the source of income, right? And
But when you're saying sheltered, you're saying they want them to stay at all costs at that program.
yes, yeah,
And
Not that
not
they're
go to
not
high
challenging
school,
them.
not play high school, right? And not be exposed.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and you're right. I don't think there is a great solution to that, but I will tell you this. I have spent a lot of time trying to explain the importance of playing for your hometown, playing for your high school, Friday night lights. Um, and I've done it through anecdotally telling them stories of athletic experiences I had in winning games and heartbreaking losses and playing for my town and my high school. And at this moment, at 8 and 10, at least both my sons, they know what sports they want to play in every season, all three of them. They know that they want to be state champions for their high school. They know that they want to go to Low Scouts High School. And I find myself recruiting other kids to have that mindset in their rec teams and their little league teams. And I talk about playing for your hometown. And man, if it gets 3 or 4 kids to play on a team all through high school and have some sort of win somewhere and outcome in life, it's worth it. It infuriates me that the concept of you can't risk playing for your high school or your town, that drives me bananas. But I can make the exception for maybe for the few elite kids that are in an MLS program at the age of
Not
15 or
even.
16. But play for your hometown. There's no greater sort of, I think, outcome or honor than that.
Yeah, I would say I boys versus girls a little bit. We've not seen so many girls go straight to the NWSL, but we are seeing kids move straight to the MLS. Like, I get that, right? If you're signing
Mhm.
your pro contract and you are going to drop out of high school and go straight pro, skip college, okay, I can chew off that one, right? With our elite players, as you've heard me say before, they all played high school. They signed their junior year, top schools across the nation, right? Berkeley, Stanford, Santa Clara, Hawaii, and we just got one now being looked at by St. Mary's, all played for the high school. All of them.
Yeah. And that's a
Because
beautiful thing. Not without its own sort of potential hiccups that we've experienced in Los Gatos from coaching and in Los Gatos
of
United and
course,
coaching at the high school, right? And parents still find their way into this equation and they still find a way, some of them to blow up the beauty of it, that you know, the purity of that high school experience. But for the most part, I think that's something I really hope my kids do play a
experience.
part in.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about parents for a second. I'm going to go on both sides of this, Andrew, as a parent of a high schooler and elementary. So you're seeing two extremes of it, and hopefully can teach Craig and I some lessons as our daughters, exit junior high here. But also the parents' approach to you or to the club, the teams you're coaching. Have you seen a change in parent behavior, good, bad, or ugly, personally over the past 5 years?
Yeah, I have. Um, Anecdotally, I'll tell a conceptual story because I don't think it's, adds any value to be out there and in it. But there was a coach at a club locally and a coach at a high school, and very successful, in my estimation, great coach, great person. Um, and this high school had tryouts, and um, juniors didn't make varsity, and some freshmen and sophomore did make varsity. And the the attorneys' parents, a couple of them came in, the parents of these kids that didn't make varsity, and had an investigation of the coach, and then the investigation turned up nothing improprietary, nothing bad, nothing wrong, and they didn't like that answer, and they went through the correct channels to have another investigation of the same coach on the same topics, and it included pulling players into the conversation and interviewing them. And I felt for the athletic director, I felt for the coach, I felt for the players impacted by it. I felt probably the worst for the players, the kids of the parents who were doing this, because that isn't the best outcome for your kid to demonstrate that it didn't go my way. I'm going to pitch a fit and try and create the change. And so that was really challenging to see from a lot of different angles. And you're drawn into it just because you're the president of a club where this person coached, and the players that didn't make it played. Um, and then I got to experience it as a parent, and I got to experience it 2 years in a row. My daughter was a cheerleader at Los Gatos High School, and they had tryouts, and there was some questionable uh, metric, I guess, applied to these things. And in one year, a kid didn't make it, and lo and behold, an attorney parent came in and blew up that situation. It didn't impact my daughter in that year. The next year, the coach quit. The next year, new coach, similar issue, and it did impact my daughter. And I had to make a choice. What parent are you going to be? You're going to be the parent who is just coming in, investigate it. This isn't fair. My daughter was wronged. And I went to the AD and I said, here's how I feel. Here are some potential outcomes. How do you feel about this? And the AD engaged and gave me the feedback, and we didn't align. And that's just Josie, my daughter, had a tough outcome in life, and has thrived and overcome it and moved on, and looks back with a lot of, I guess, confidence in how she handled the situation, and looks back with a lot of, did I really want to be part of that environment anyways? And so, and I chose the path of, I'm going to engage to an extent and then accept the situation as it is, and we're going to learn from it and grow from it and move on. And I'm so glad that it wasn't get the lawyers out, investigate it type thing. And but that's everybody's individual decision.
We've talked about this so much. Are you going to take the opportunity for your child to grow away from them by intervening? And yours is, I mean, that's a big story, especially at this point in a high school. Right? That is it, right? That's
Yeah,
you're on the varsity side of it, right? It can come to an end, but through adversity, so much more is then available to the kids. And I mean, at the younger ages of not making a team one, not making a county team for track and field, there's so many moments that the kids can see adversity and understand how to handle it. So, I mean, kudos to you to see that and act as, as the principled parent in there and able
not
to take it.
easy.
Although it sucks, it eats
Not
at
easy.
you.
Yeah.
It really does.
It just I always try and go back to, I know times have changed, right? I sound like an old man, but when we didn't make a team, it was like you didn't go and complain to your parents. You have to fuck on with it.
Yeah. Move on.
That was the end of it.
Well,
You gotta
I mean,
try harder.
it's that
Yeah.
same meme of 30 years ago, a kid brings home a bad report card. It's the parents saying, "Why did you get this grade?" Whereas now, you bring home a bad report card, they're going to the teacher's office or meeting them in the parking lot, saying, "My kid doesn't deserve this grade. What's going on?" And it's tough because on one side, you're a parent looking at your kid who is sad, uh, angry, depressed, upset. There's so many emotions that they're going through, and you don't want them to feel that way. You almost give anything you can to pull them out of that moment. But the best thing that we can do for them is give them the tools to advocate for themselves. We're in it together. We'll follow their lead, but it's going to be their lead.
And it's possibly the greatest gift you can give them. And I think it delves into another subject, which maybe isn't for today's, but this evolution of this child-centric household. And we're experiencing it, we're living it, and it's very hard to regulate in a youth sports environment with multiple sports. Um, and it's not intentional, but when Friday night is, all right, here's the movie, here's the pizza, it's family time, and let's get to bed, and then you're laying out the uniforms, you're making sure the bags are there, the bottles are filled up, or you're challenging the child to do it for themselves, right? And I'll be transparent. There's days where like I'll pack the bag because I don't have the energy to fight with you about where your cleat is for the last 2 days. Um, but you are focusing on this child, on their athletic event, on their athletic endeavors. The whole house is designed around this. You're waking up at 5 on Saturday so you can work out before you go to their 14 hours of games before, and you're looking at calendars. Your wife and you are at each other's throat because you're like, who's taking what to where and when, and this child centric household concept is not, I don't think, the greatest outcome for our society, and we're working on that in our household a lot. And but it's a balance, right? Because youth sports has great outcomes and it has great lessons and it has great positive things, and you got to find that. And unfortunately, in today's world, and growing up, it was baseball had Monday, Wednesday, football had Tuesday, Thursday, soccer had Sunday games, football and baseball had one had afternoon, one had, and they agreed, they talked to each other. There was commissioners, but now you're just scrapping for that dollar. And
This
so
portion
that's
of today's episode brought to you by GamePlan, GamePlan.ai, to help solve your calendar needs for youth sports. It's it's so true though, that balancing act that you just mentioned, Andrew, because we want to provide every opportunity that we had as kids. We remember we were at the baseball diamond, we were on the soccer pitch, we're on the football, we're always had that ability. It's the overlap that we're doing right now that I see so many families are, hey, I can't get to baseball today because I have a flag football tournament, but I actually can't go to that flag football tournament because I'm doing travel ball at the same time.
mhm.
That's where I start to get you're not providing an opportunity there. You're just overloading and overloading. And again, follow the kids' passions, but multiple sports, multiple activities. It was so um, calming a couple weeks ago where a Monday night we had nothing. And we brought them home from school and they're doing homework and we're making dinner. And you're just like, wow, this is
Well,
nice.
I mean, and you both made a couple of great points there. One is it's really difficult to implement your parenting style when the area is the way it is, right? I'm just going to classify where we live, right? Everyone parents different. I totally get that. When we were kids, like I don't know about you guys, but definitely in England, if I did something wrong, like is either my dad give me a clip around the ear or somebody else's dad knowing I was being a little shit, and it didn't matter, right? You were parented by 4 or 5 different families that all followed the same kind of morals. And I don't think we have that as much in this area. Then the other thing to that, Chad, to your point, is well, the game plan pitch, but you learn, I think you subconsciously learn as well because your parents couldn't get you to everything. People did pick up and drop off with you, right? So it was throw them into Steve's car, they've got football training, whatever it is, right? So you picked up subconsciously the way that their families worked as well. And again, the stress comes in our households of like, you've got to do that. Do they have this? And blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, dude, when I was a kid, you got in the car and if you forgot something, tough. Like, figure it out.
Disappointment.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, disappointment. You can't train because you forgot your boots. Well, you run around in your trainers and do as best as you can, and that's the end of it. Oh, you forgot your shin guards. Right, the amount of times I can't even tell you. We used to shove, you know, cardboard or rolled up socks or stuff like that in for shin pads because you forgot them. Like, you just figured stuff out, and I think I'm a bit of an arse with our kids, right? I'm like, dude, I'm not bringing your dance bag. Like, you're doing it. Like, be responsible. Get on with it.
That reminds me, Craig. Where do you have a studio? Is there any swag you're not wearing today?
We
For
have a
those that are
competition.
not on video and listening to this on their car ride, he's got Jungle Studios T-shirt, Jungle Studios hat, and is that a Jungle Studios Yeti?
No, this
You're
is
bougie. You're
we're
bougie.
bougie. They're at a competition this weekend, so we gotta go all out.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, as you have the boys, younger boys, Josie in high school. Has there come a moment where you really wanted them to do a sport or an activity that they've just been completely anti?
I think both of those lessons so far have come from Josie, and that the young lady is an amazing athlete, and if you were, sometimes I might remind her that she's squandering a significant amount of athletic talent sometimes, in my opinion. And hey, should we run cross country, or it's not too late to pick up a field hockey stick. Um, and it hurts from a father standpoint to coach somebody from 4 to 13 and then just have her be like, I don't want to play soccer anymore. And you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup, because you just gotta let her find her way in life, and you gotta embrace that, and you gotta not make it about you and your ego. And the same thing happened so far with skiing. A lot of time, a lot of lessons, a lot of energy, a lot of coaching her in skiing and getting her to be a really accomplished skier. And she kind of walked away from that at like 15 too. And um, I have actually found myself at times wishing for maybe a boyfriend that would be a big skier to pull her back into the sport. Um, but what's happened has she's seen her younger brother, start to pass her in a skiing level, and she's agreed to ski a half day here or there. So I'm being patient. But from those changes in interest, what she has found is this world of fitness, and she is lifting every day. She's doing Pilates, and this isn't about a body image thing. It's she enjoys being physically active. She enjoys lifting. She's found some great women at her gym who are mentors, which you can make some wisecracks about Los Gatos and images at gyms, but these really are amazing young women that have kind of taken her under her wing, and their wing, and she's found fitness through a different, not through youth sports, but through a different endeavor, and she's gotten a job at the club in Los Gatos and is part of a community and thriving and feels valued and feels important, and not the path I would have drawn up for her,
It all
but it's her
started
path.
with, but you did the right thing, right? You got into soccer. You did certain things, which is given her the confidence to then go and do fitness, to go and do these other things, right? And I think that's something we miss a lot, right? And I'm the same. Obviously, my girls started at soccer and that evaporated by the time they were 5 and 6. So that didn't even last anything for me. But then I watch them at dance. I keep telling the wife, I'm like, look, they may not go all the way to 18. They may go to 12 or 4, whatever it is. But they've now got that work ethic, that passion for fitness, that healthy mind, healthy body, healthy eating, all those things that we push into them as a younger age. So when they do it 16, 17, 18, they know that they can train. And I'm a huge believer of that, right? I can't run anymore, so I ride, but I know how to train. That's just built in from when we were so young. We know it's going to suck. We know it's going to hurt. We know how to recover from it. And then you have 2 days off or 3 days off. And you're like, shit, I need to work out again. Like, I don't feel good. Like, I need to get back on the bike or whatever. So you did this solid thing for all the kids, just introducing them to the work ethic that's needed for the rest of your life, basically.
Yeah. And I think that the one point or the one thing I felt it was important to share today was this experiencing things. And so, and we've stumbled into this as a family. There was no great sort of plan here, but the thing that I've noticed is so Josie as a younger girl, I had a company that put on kids triathlons. So kids triathlons June, July, August, and she did them for like 6 years. And they weren't long, and she didn't always like it, but she did them. She had success. She'd get a medal here or there. And so these kids triathlons, I think, gave her this fundamental base of confidence in sport and overcoming something I don't want to do. Um, and then for the boys, what's transpired is I got to give, I think, a decent amount of kudos to the next level type organizations that show up on one day at the same time. You get a practice and you get a game, and you get to experience basketball and flag football, and the family can plan around that. And it doesn't create, it creates a great opportunity to go to lunch together afterwards or before, and it doesn't create a ton of additional stress. Maybe you're not going to the beach that day because of this, but you know what? If you miss next level, nobody's that bent out of shape, and you and then the other thing we've tried to work in is non-team, non-competitive sports. And for the boys, that's become now skiing, surfing, and mountain biking. And
Yeah.
we're not going more than a couple of weeks without doing one of those. Um, and and this was a little bit part of the grander plan is I suck at surfing. I grew up in Ohio, Cleveland. There you can surf Lake Erie, but it's not happening.
It's not
So
recommended.
no, but I grew up with a father who, for whatever reason, in the grand scheme of things, flew us to Park City from Cleveland, Ohio, in a time when people didn't do that, and we'd spend a week skiing in the Rocky Mountains in this great Utah snow, and so I became a pretty good skier, and I'm a pretty terrible surfer, and so they've got to experience me doing both, struggling at surfing, being far better than they'll ever be at skiing, and for whatever reason, that's created this really unique experience for us as a family. And then they've watched their mom have the courage to take on both skiing and surfing. And she'll be the first to tell you she's pretty terrible at both and scared of both, but they get to watch her demonstrate courage. So finding that family hobby, and it can be tough because I promise you all three kids aren't going to want to do the same thing, right? So but that's that to me has created a little bit of an outlet to be athletic and not competitive and not stressed out about stuff as a family.
Well, just hitting on the point of having the opportunity to have your kids watch you struggle and see your response, because we don't fully realize how much they're actually soaking in. We think that it's in the car ride home or the lecture we're giving at the dinner table of like the words coming out of our mouth where they're zoned out. You know, it's the Peanuts
Like,
cartoon, wah wah
yeah,
wah wah
wah
wah
wah
wah.
wah wah.
But when they see you not be able to lift those weights or get under a squat rack and not have your knees pop out, and they go, oh, I can do that. We're having a little bit of the pull-up competition. Andrew, I think Colton actually introduced us to the book that I'm
Oh
going to
yeah,
blank on right now.
Way of the Warrior Kid, Way of the
Yeah,
Warrior Kid.
Warrior Kid.
Yeah,
Exactly. And just
great
like
book, great
it's
books.
tough to do. It doesn't mean it's tough forever. That growth mindset that builds in. But again, all the books, all the lectures, if they can actually witness you struggle and then keep going, it's a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah, and we got that from lacrosse too. Didn't grow up playing it. Had to learn to catch and throw with them. What a gift! What an absolute gift! Gives you two chances to have a catch, Dad. Right? You know, baseball or lacrosse, and it's something I'm really grateful for.
What's it like on a lacrosse sideline relative to soccer or baseball from a parent perspective? You didn't grow up, so you don't.
Yeah.
I don't think you have the same like bias towards what you expect to see on
No.
the field.
No. Um, I am eternally grateful to Dominic Bortano getting us into lacrosse. He's the guy that did it. He's coaching, and I had coached his son Finn in baseball and soccer. And um, all I can probably say is it's still a new sport in a lot of places in the U.S. and there's still this grassroots and there's still a hockey stick type success. And Um, it's still a sport, and I don't think it will be for longer that you can move up. If you can catch a baseball and hit a baseball, or tennis, like that eye-hand coordination, you can move over to lacrosse. And if you want it, it's available to you. It takes some bounce back time, but you could, if you can run for soccer, you can get over to lacrosse, right? So, um, probably, I was going to say right or wrong, probably most MDs and other sort of more conservative parents out there might not agree with this, but the physical contact is amazing. It jazzes me up. There's some actual hit going on at 10, and again, people may frown on that, but it's a quick lesson, and I got to get up off the ground. I don't think you get that as much in baseball. You don't get that as much in soccer. But yet it's not lining up in tackle football and
Head to
hitting
head.
each other repetitively in the head. Um,
But speaking about contact, Andrew, you told us a story right before we went on air of playing against your son. Do you want to repeat that here?
yeah, I'll tell a story because it's another one of those, failed parenting moments. But yeah, we had the parent lacrosse game coaches lacrosse game. So four coaches played with all the kids. We split it up and tried to make it even. I very nicely asked Colton and Caleb to play on my team. Both of them chose to play against me, which, if you
Standard.
mess with you might get the horns if you mess with the bull. And Colton tried to cream me, and I tried to defend myself, and he ended up on the ground with snot bubbles and didn't talk to me for about 4 hours, and I felt terrible about it, but I can laugh about it now because he's over it. Sad night of sleep. But yeah, it was
Was Kate there when it happened, or was this a story that was told
no,
afterwards? Okay,
no.
now,
Actually, nobody even volunteered the story, but we all three came home, and there were some words exchanged on the field, in the car, on the way home amongst three. And Caleb was kind of the guy who, I've got a bruise on my arm from him slashing me. But we got home and we had dinner waiting for us. And we sat down and it was pretty quiet. And Kate said, "Am I going to need to be filled in on something?" And all was like, "No." And we got in the hot tub afterwards as a family, and he still didn't talk to me. And um, it it is what
we
it
can't
is.
we can't let the kids win, and that doesn't teach them
Yeah.
anything. And
No,
I
it
don't think our
doesn't.
egos could handle that.
And in my defense, I was absolutely going hard. I was trying, and it was the first time I put on a lacrosse helmet and gloves. It was like the first time, so I was enjoying it. There were multiple parent witnesses that Colton ran as fast as he could, as hard as he could at me, and was trying to lay me out, right?
Thanks. I,
And
I wouldn't mind the video evidence here, just
I
to,
would
to
have
compare all
loved
the
to
stories.
see this.
It
Yeah,
reminds me of at the end of last soccer season with Theo, our 10-year-old. We had a father or a parent kid game afterwards, and I've never played soccer. Craig has witnessed this. I'm not a soccer player, but I was trying to be athletic, and I think I scored like 4 or 5 goals. And Theo's like, "I thought you've never played." I never felt like such a hero until I tried to kick the last ball and just completely ate it and
with
couldn't walk
David.
for a week. So
Yeah,
kudos to you for being on the field.
it
All right.
was it
So
was fun.
before we let you go, I have just some quick questions, some struggle bubble, just quick rounds here. You've served as a president on the board of Los Gatos United. Would you ever serve on a board of youth sports again?
Ah, that I'll answer it in a second with a definitive black and white yes or no. The thing that I felt the best about was that when I stepped away, the other people I recruited to the board, I felt like your job in leadership is to prepare next up. And that's the win I'll take away from that situation was I felt like next up was there. Some great humans on that board, and it was the right time and the right circumstances for me personally to get away from it and turn my focus to my family. And so um, I was asked yesterday to serve on the Red Hawks board, and I said I would much prefer you ask my wife to serve on the board, um, because you would still get the Ferguson family buy-in. Um, but I felt like her educational experience as a teacher, her new endeavor as a mindful-based stress reduction, like person who works on wellness for clients, I thought that would bring a better perspective to a board that had plenty of lacrosse dads on it. And so um, you know, if I have to serve, I will serve, but I'd
That was a
rather
2 minute
help
answer, and I'm
other
actually
people.
going to hear the answer is
Yeah.
no because you've done your duty, and we'd rather support in other ways.
Yeah.
You've done your
Yeah.
duty, and now you're offloading it to the wife. That's what we got to. Right.
What would you? Well, so let's reverse this. Somebody's sitting on the sidelines right now as a parent. They have thoughts, but they don't want to join a board. What advice would you want to give that person who is vocal but unwilling to step in as a coach or a board member?
Oof.
Yeah. Man in the arena, either step in or stay quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be
You've
a
you've
Monday morning quarterback. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
you using an American football reference.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but I heard it before.
You used it in
It's
perfect
spot
context.
on. Yeah.
You've sat on the sideline watching soccer, baseball, lacrosse, flag football, basketball. Which one do you enjoy the most as a dad in the stands?
Oh, lacrosse by far.
Nice. What
Wow.
trend in youth sports right now would you want to see eliminated?
All parents attending that open their mouth.
It's like the silent disco. All
Yeah.
parents are gone.
So the trend, I think that we do not understand the full impact of NIL yet. And if we think that it's going to stop at a college level or collegiate level, we're sadly mistaken. Um, I think that I actually will be as critical as I can be of the NCAA over the last 50 years. They thought they were in charge of things, something they couldn't control, and they negatively impacted more lives, I think, than they positively impacted. Um, and they became a political arm of society. So I think that though there needs to be some sort of governance here of this that isn't in existence right now, and um, and it's going to have bad outcomes. I think all the way down into the high school level before we get it fixed, if we get it fixed.
Yeah, we're seeing
So
it all the way. We're seeing it all the way down. We talked about this a week or two ago. Of that money is so large now. There's multiple things you can stay in high school. You can stay in college longer and make more money, red shirt and etc.
yeah,
You can quit after college, right? You may have made enough money that you never need to go pro, so you're taking the desire out of that, that ceiling. And then the other thing is these kids are getting paid in high school now to groom them into a certain college, right? And we know that's been going on forever, right? LeBron James got a car and all this other shit. But I think
Allegedly.
allegedly, there's actual money, real big money now. And that's going to, talking about the high school stuff earlier, that's going to affect that. People legitimately will not play because of the financial impact it could have on them. And we're talking about 14, 15-year old kids.
yeah.
They're
To
kids.
be fair, I think that there is a need for athletes to benefit financially from
For
sport,
sure. Yeah,
right? I just think that it is the wild, wild west, and because it is, it's gonna, as you said, in ways that we never anticipate, flow down into high school sports, and that's what I'm worried about.
That's the biggest thing and thread throughout everything that we've talked about is the incentives, ambitions, motivations of those that are running these organizations, because we keep spouting that 40 billion to 50 billion dollar youth sports industry like it's an awesome term. There's so much money in it. It's so popular. If the intent is to make more money at the sacrifice of the experience of all, I think we just need to maintain the right people in charge that are in there for the right reasons to get more kids out on an athletic field, interacting socially, and staying in that game as long as possible. Yes, financially compensate that the university shouldn't be making billions of dollars and the kids and the families aren't earning anything, but we need to be very deliberate on how you get access to that track and train and not seed. I mean, just going back to the presidents and volunteer stuff, we need more people vocally engaged at the community level so that we can keep all of that on the right track at
Yeah,
every level.
100%. And listen, we're not alone in this. There is plenty, the Manning brothers, there's plenty of people who are seeing the deterioration of youth sports and stepping up and trying. And I'm not even beginning to say, hey, we're from the government, we're here to help concept, right? Like, but it's broken. We all know it's broken. We aren't going to agree on how to fix it, but you got to try and do your bit to lend a little bit of guidance to the when it's your time to step up.
100%. Well, we have now recorded for over an hour, which is fantastic. And I'm sure we can go for another, but we're going to wrap up for today. And Andrew will have you on absolutely anytime. So first, thank you, Andrew, for joining us today.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
And then for everybody listening, please continue to like, comment, share across social media. You can find us on Instagram, the Struggle Bubble Pod, and listen wherever you find your podcasts. So for Andrew Ferguson and Craig Surgi, I'm Chad Cutting. We'll see everybody next week.
Adios.
See ya. Thanks.